going to make directory node browser JS. So let's just say I had a script here called server.js. It doesn't exist, so I'm going to create server.js. Try that command again. Nothing happens because the file is just empty. So I'll open it up here, and I'll put something here. Just do a console log, and I'll do the stereotypical hello world. So now when I rerun this, I get hello world in the console. I'm just going to add a little bit of complexity to this, even though it doesn't really need it. It's just for demonstration's sake. Let's say that instead of printing direct to the console hello world, I had a function that was called greeting. And it would return the string hello. Now instead of just printing the string all by itself, I'll incorporate this greeting. Now when I load it through Node, I still get hello world, but now I'm incorporating a function. And I'll do the same for another function. So it's greeting, I'll just call it a thing, and I'll have this function return world. So I still want a space between the two here. Now I can basically accomplish the same thing through Node here, hello world, but I have two functions. One just returns me the greeting part, one returns me the thing part, and it seems overly complicated for what we're doing here, but this goes to what I wanted to demonstrate. Let me have one more function here. Function, I'll just call it hello world. I'll basically do what I'm doing in here, where I'm concatenating the two here. So now instead of calling two functions and putting a space between the two, I'll just call the one. And again, I'm accomplishing the same thing. Well, let's say that I wanted to wrap this up and make it group together as a singular module. In Node, the way you typically bring in a module is you say, I do camel case on this, my module require, let's just say hello world is the name of my module. I'm going to just comment this out for now. Now when I rerun Node, I get an error because hello world is a module that doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to put a dot, which stands for this directory, a /, and then hello world.js. I'm going to be explicit about the path that I'm loading here. When I run my node, I get an error. It says it cannot find the module, so I will create the module. Now when I rerun Node, nothing happens because there's nothing inside my module. So I'm going to open that up. You'll see there's nothing there. Basically what I want to do is I want to load the module here. I want it to contain my functions here, but then I still want to call it down here at the bottom. And the way that I would call this, it would basically be my module, so console log my module.hello world. This is basically the way that I want to interact with it. So now I'm going to set up my module to take this in here. Just for illustrative purposes, let me run this node here. So I get an error here. It has no method hello world because I'm not really doing anything in here. So let me paste my functions in here. And I'll rerun Node. Still nothing's happening. The reason it doesn't happen, nothing's happening here, is I need to export using something called exports. And it exports hello world. I'm going to just set it equal to hello world. Now when I rerun Node, I get what I expect. The hello world app runs. So I've created a module and doing something that's very common in Node, where I'm setting up a temporary variable, a local variable, I'm loading in the module, and then I'm using the module down lower in the script here. Very simple, but this is basically a very common pattern with Node. what I want to be able to do is I want the same exact file that I'm using here to be able to load into a browser, provide a similar functionality that this module has defined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an index.html file here. I'm going to load up this file in Chrome. And there's nothing here. Let me now open up the index file in my text editor. Type something there, hit refresh. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete everything here, start fresh. And what I want to do is load this module. If I look at the console here, you'll see that I have this error because exports is not defined. Exports is something that's not native to a browser. So up here I'm going to say if type of exports equals undefined, then I want to do something here. I want to set up this variable so I don't get this JavaScript error here. And I'm going to set it to basically be a global variable equal to the name of my module, which is just my module. Nothing too creative here. And it's just going to be an object. So I can just capture stuff in this object. I'm going to hit save and refresh here. So now my error goes away. Go back to my HTML file here. But kind of like what I'm doing in Node over here, I named my module without the dash, it's just my module. So let me go back over here and make sure that that's the same. I want to do this exact same thing here in my JavaScript file. So let me just try and see what happens. Oh, I need to wrap this in a script tag. Refresh here. And it does it. The reason why it does that is I've set up my module as a global variable and it knows exactly what to do. It's a little incomplete, or it's not accomplishing what I'd expect a true module setup to provide for me, because a little different than what's occurring in Node is not only am I able to call the hello world, but I didn't really have an intention of these, the greeting and the thing, as being functions that are accessible to the outside. I really just wanted them to be private internal functions, and you'll see here that I'll just go straight here to the browser. So I come back over here to the console. I can access greeting, and I can access thing. And I didn't really want that. I wanted those to be private. So we have an option with JavaScript. So what I'll do is create an enclosure. And inside this enclosure, I'm going to put my functions, two of which I want to protect as private variables, and one that I would like to be exported. I'll put that export down here. This is basically saying in exports, expose this function for me. Now this up here, I'll comment it out for now. I'm going to pass this in as I execute the closure. I'm going to write this a little bit differently. Basically, I'm going to do a type of exports triple equals undefined. If it's undefined, then I want to pass in my module, which is equal to an empty object, or I just want to pass in the exports. I'm going to save that, and let's refresh. Whoops. I get an error here. It says exports is not defined because I'm passing it in. I need to call Again, I need to give it a name up here, so I'll put exports here, hit save, hit refresh, and I've got it in working order in the browser again. Let's just double check in Node that it's still doing what I want it to do. It is. So now I've got my module doing the identical thing in both places. I've written my JavaScript module in a way that is so it could adapt, it could be versatile. It could work in the Node environment, it could work in the browser. So I'm loading it in Node. This is the way I load the external module when I'm using Node, using require. When I'm using HTML, I use the traditional script tag to load it in. It's the same file that I'm loading in. And in Node, I'm doing a console log, and I'm saying my module hello world to get hello world. And in my HTML file, loading it using a script tag, doing a console log hello world to produce the same thing here.